welcome to this week's Mindful Moment session. My name is Jean, and it's an honor to be able to host these sessions for you all. So this week, we are specifically going to be focusing on the mindful quality of compassion and how we can use self-compassion to calm our inner critic. So what is compassion as a mindful quality? Self-compassion means treating yourself like you would treat a friend, with kindness, empathy, and understanding. So we're going to try to apply this in our mindful practice today. So a key part of calming our inner critic is having mindful, loving kindness phrases at the ready. So you can memorize certain phrases such as, "This is a difficult moment," "Many people experience this," "I'm not alone," "May I be kind to myself," among others, just so that you have them in your head when you realize that you're in a certain situation in which the inner chatter that is constantly running in your head is being harsh towards yourself. So really, this is an approach to try to embrace the voice in your head with objectivity and compassion. So one thing we would really like to do when calming our inner critic is to make friends with the voice in our heads, because our inner critic is the thing that is causing us this trouble of always having that constant critical voice in our heads. So one way to do this is to pay attention to the language you use to talk to yourself. Would you talk that way with a friend? The scolding voice is really trying to keep you out of trouble and make sure you're okay. But you can greet the voice with your own approach, like how you would treat a friend if they were in a situation like this and criticizing themselves. So you could say, "Thank you. I know you're trying to help, but I'm okay. I've got this." So trying to make friends with the voice in your head. Another way to approach is to use a physical calming gesture, such as placing our hand over our heart, or any sort of gentle physical touch that it works for you and helps to calm you down. And finally, another approach is to use self-compassion journaling. And why this method works is because when you're journaling, you might be able to identify how you talk to yourself and your thoughts. And so you can use what you put down on paper as an approach to try to figure out how to make friends or compromise with that voice in your head. And it's more of like a reflection that will help you come to certain insights or realizations. So before we begin our mindful practice, I would like us all to take 3 deep breaths. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. All right. This week, our mindful practice will feature these Tibetan singing bowls, and we will try to practice reflecting and identifying when there is a critical voice in our heads and how we might try to make friends with it. Make sure I share my sound. All right, now that we have finished practicing our mindful practice for the week, we will transition to our discussion section. Oops, sorry about that. Going back to the previous slide. Thinking about the questions, can you think of any more loving kindness phrases? They're a way to help yourself calm your inner critic in the moment when you realize that there's a harsh voice in your head. Some examples we talked about earlier are featured on this slide. This is a difficult moment. Many people experience this. I am not alone. May I be kind to myself. So thinking about what are some other loving kindness phrases that we can use. Secondly, thinking about the question, what is self-compassion and what is it not? Are there any practices that you can think of that help bring self-compassion? All right, so for more loving kindness phrases, we have, this is a difficult moment. May I be kind to myself. May I give myself what I need. May I be strong. What is self-compassion? Self-compassion, as we said in the beginning, is really treating yourself as you would treat a friend. So trying to have more sympathy for yourself than you might usually have in order to sort of be more self-compassionate to yourself. Self-compassion is not being really loose about yourself and having these low standards. It is not saying that you can do anything and that you can be compassionate to yourself as you would a friend, because there are certain boundaries that we should not cross. Self-compassion within a reasonable sort of region is just sort of treating yourself as you would treat a friend and trying to sort of find the best possible way to treat yourself given your circumstances. So if you sort of think about it, whenever you see a friend that is in distress or stressed out, you're like trying to comfort them, right? Maybe, and sometimes you might tell them, oh, you can do this, in order to help them solve a certain problem, or to sort of suggest to them how they might solve the problem. And this is a similar way that we can treat ourselves and in moments of stress. Any practices that we can think of that helps bring self-compassion? I think that definitely with mindful practices, we can develop a greater sort of appreciation for ourselves, which is important in self-compassion. And we can better notice things about ourselves when we are more mindful and when our thoughts come from a calm and centered place. So having these mindful practices, whether they be 5 minutes or half an hour or whatever length of time, as long as you sort of dedicate some sort of time to practice mindfulness. And this can include meditation, walking meditation, exercising, even as a moving meditation. And some practices we talked about earlier were self-compassion journaling, as well as those loving kindness phrases, and the physical gestures might help you, especially in the moment of stress. All right, I would like to conclude the session with a quote that relates to what we talked about this week, which was self-compassion. If your compassion does not include yourself, is incomplete. I would like to source the National Geographic Everyday Mindfulness special issue, as well as Dr. Kristen Neff's website on self-compassion. I would encourage you to check it out. And I would like to thank you all so much for joining me for this week's Mindful Moment session. And I hope you guys have a wonderful and mindful week ahead.